I'm Dave and this is Logan, out once again for a walk in the New Forest. Thanks for joining us. Now today we're going to be doing something slightly different. We're going to try and see how much of the old disused railway line that we can walk on that runs from Brockenhurst in the east to Ringwood in the west, part of the old Castleman'S Corkscrew line. As well as seeing how much of the line we can still walk on, hopefully we're going to see quite a bit of beautiful scenery along the way. So do join us. Now we're filming on the 1st of April. It's Good Friday tomorrow, so I expect there'll be a few people out and about. It's about 10-11 degrees at the moment. Sun is out, so hopefully it's going to warm up and it'll be perfect conditions for walking. Are we ready? We should be able to take your fleece off in a minute. Let's go. Okay, well, before we start, let me give you a very brief history behind the line, and I will try and keep it brief. I'll see if I can remember all the dates as well. Back in 1845, the Southampton to Dorchester Railway Company was formed with the objective of building a line, basically extending the existing London to Southampton line, which had been built by the London and South Western Railway in 1840, all the way through from Southampton to Dorchester. And it was going to be a 60-mile long track, and it would link coming from Southampton through to Ashurst and Brockenhurst, Ringwood, Wareham and Dorchester. It was promoted by a chap called Charles Castleman. He was a solicitor in Wimborne, and the route was known as the Castleman Corkscrew, mainly because of the way the line meandered its way through the forest, and I'll explain the reason behind that as we go along. So the line was built in 1847, and in fact in 1848 it was taken over by the London and South Western Railway. It didn't pass through places like Christchurch and Bournemouth because at the time Bournemouth was just a fishing village. The line was fairly successful, but in 1888 a new line was built to the south of the forest that went through Sway and Bournemouth and then all the way to Dorchester, and that effectively meant that this line was redundant. It became a branch line and it eventually closed in the 1960s. Well, now we've got that out of the way, let's go to the start. Well, I've got to the starting point. Now usually at the beginning of these walks I tell you where I park my car, but because this is a linear walk, A to B, about 6 or 7 miles, I managed to get someone to drop me off at the start, and hopefully they'll pick me up at the finish. There is public transport both at Brockenhurst, where there's a railway station, and Ringwood, where you could catch a bus down to Bournemouth station. But the walk that I'm going to be doing is the type that you could do sections of it, and there are loads of car parks along the way, so what I'll do is I'll point them out as we go along. So the starting point, we're at a place called Lymington Junction, which is just to the south of Brockenhurst. Whoops! And to prove the point, I wasn't expecting that. So if I just pan the camera around, there is our starting point. So yeah, the junction where the old line joined the main line just south of Brockenhurst is there, and you've already seen the main line. So just gently pan round. There's a Brockenhurst Golf Club, and this is the start of our walk. We're going to be on an embankment, and this is obviously where the old track used to be. Let's see how much of it is still left. Well, it's very much an obvious embankment along here. Obviously the track is long gone, but there's still plenty of evidence. If I bend down, plenty of the aggregate that they used to lay the track on. But certainly you're enjoying it already, aren't you? Our first blockage on the line. It's a barbed wire fencing, so I'm guessing it's private land on the other side. So I think it's only for about 500 yards. So what we'll do is we'll drop off the banking and walk alongside and just circumnavigate it, and then just rejoin the line a little bit further on. Well, we haven't gone far from the railway. It's just on the banking up there on the right. A few ponies dotting around. Won't be long before we're seeing some foals on the forest. It'll be quite interesting to see what the numbers are going to be like this year. Normally they have about 15 stallions out on the forest, usually May, June time. And last year they decided just to put out 10, obviously presumably to reduce the numbers, so I'm guessing there'll be a lot fewer foals on the forest this year. And now we can rejoin the track, and this is where there was a level crossing, and look, there's the old level crossing post there. What have we got here? Cycle sign. This tells us we're on the National Cycle Trail number 2, which I believe when it's completed it'll extend all the way from Dover in Kent to St Austell in Cornwall, about 361 miles. Now just alongside me here, this lovely building, this is an old level crossing keeper's cottage, and I think it's called Cater's Cottage, something like that. And a lot of them were built like this, single story with 2 living rooms and a conventional sort of hipped roof and a lean-to scullery at the rear. And they often used to have a reasonably generous plot of land alongside. But I mean, it's extraordinary. I think there was something like 40 level crossings along the entire 60-mile route. I think it was cheaper for them to put those in rather than bridges. I think this is crossing number 10. Anyway, we'll continue heading westwards along a fairly straight track by the looks of things. Well, not too far away from that level crossing, we're going through a cutting through, I think it's Blackhamsley Hill. And I was reading somewhere that you know, after the line had closed, there was talk of them filling this in as a landfill site, which would have been outrageous. And just by me here on the left hand side there's this sort of concrete square structure. Now I'm no expert on railways, but one of my Facebook friends told me that it's got something to do with drainage. They seem to appear alongside the track in cuttings, and they're in pairs, one each side, and I guess that would make sense, certainly in a cutting with water flowing off the sides. But there's plenty of little bits of evidence of the old railway as you go along, so it's well worth keeping your eyes peeled. Well, this is our first bridge of the walk, although it looks as though we've got to go around. Presumably it's just too dangerous to walk on. Now the first car park on the route is a Forestry Commission car park at Longslade, right up on that ridge there. So I say what you could do if you are just looking to do sections of this walk, you could come down here, walk along the track one way, and then come back alongside it on this lovely sort of green expanse. If I just come across, so you've got a little bit of heathland on one side, but almost not quite New Forest lawn, but very similar. It makes a lovely little circuit to do. Right, we need to get back onto the track proper. It's quite gorgeous through here. Those trees on the far side, I think that's Hinchesley in the north, with the bog in front. Although there are plenty of tracks that cross it. But isn't this lovely with this avenue of trees either side? Beautiful. And then on the left hand side, much more open sort of heathland. Our second bridge of the walk. As you can see, we've had to come off to go back on again, another unsafe bridge. Now I did come across some old black and white grainy footage of some film of a steam train crossing this exact bridge with its distinctive central support, heading off into the easterly direction to Brockenhurst. Of course, in those days there was no gorse or trees all open then. Okay, let's carry on and head back onto the track. I meant to say also there's a car park just by me here. In fact, if I just pan round and show it to you, Long Slade Bottom. It is quite a big car park, but it does get quite busy. And another bridge. This time we're going to go underneath this one, and quite a magnificent structure it is as well. It's got a tarmac road over the top. I think that goes to Wilverley. Interesting, it's got two little arches either side. Now, I wonder if that's for the livestock. I say I'm no expert. I'm not saying that, I'm not saying money was no object or anything, but when the line was built, the owners of the land, the Crown, would have been in quite a good position in order to dictate the conditions of what structures could be put up. So I'm guessing that was the reason. I might be totally wrong, of course. Logan, anything to report? Well, it is quite peaceful in here. I was expecting to be a lot busier, although there are a couple of people walking in the other direction. Now I've just come through another cutting that actually cuts through the Setthorns enclosure. Now for most of the route of the track they tried to keep away from woods, which is why you had this sort of windy look to the route. But here they had no choice but to cut through the top northwestern part of the enclosure, which had been planted here 30 years before the track was built. It was just too boggy on the other side. They were going to build a tunnel here, but they put a cutting in instead, which was a bit of a mistake because there were quite a few forest fires that started as a result of sparks from the steam trains. Continuing westwards, I don't know if I put up that clip of Logan running and he met a couple of runners. Just as one of them went by, a lady turned around and said, "Hey, I did one of your YouTube walks the other day." I hope she didn't get lost. Now I know I've been talking a lot about the railway because it's a railway line, but there's so much to look out for either side in terms of views as well. It really does make a great walk, and you're not going to get lost, and also it doesn't look as though it's going to get too muddy. It's quite a firm surface. Just turn around here, look at this beautiful yellow gorse that's just catching the sunshine at the moment. It's everywhere. It really is quite pretty. Aha! Now we're at cycle post 193, and this is where we're going to lose the track just for a few yards. It carries on straight ahead, but the cycle track just bears to the left. So, and I'll explain why very shortly, but just on the other side, I don't know, about 100 yards, you can probably hear a road and I'll tell you about that when we get there. Alright, I've just got my bearings again. So there's where the track was, the cycle track, and it continues, or the track continues, so you can see in that gully there, and then it just seems to come to a halt. And the reason why that's happened is for the next mile or so they've actually built a whopping great road on the exact route of the track. And if I just get around this, you can probably see some trees in the background. That's the Wilverley enclosure on the right. So, well, we're going to carry on along this road. There's just about enough room on the verge for Logan and me to carry on. That'll take us to the Holmesley station. There is a car park just on the left here, Wootton Bridge, and if you are doing this route and prefer not to go by the road, there is like a woodland path that you can follow, and it'll come out at Holmesley station. But we're going to try and keep as much as possible to the original route of the track. Well, we made our way along that road. I think I'll put up a map of a suggested alternate woodland path. So it might be a little bit less stressful. Anyway, we've made our way to our one and only railway station on the route, and here it is. It's now a tea rooms, and this is the old Holmesley station, originally called Christchurch Road, even though Christchurch is actually about 7 miles to the south of here. It was renamed Holmesley in 1862, and the site was chosen here as it was next to the old turnpike road from Southampton to Christchurch, in preference to a site serving the western end of the forest nearer to Burley. But the building there is the old station master's house, and I say it is a tea room. Unfortunately it's closed. We're just getting to the end of the COVID travel restrictions. They've just been eased, but I think some things like tea rooms and pubs are going to be open in a couple of weeks' time. But we have been here before when we did our Wilverley walk, and I can thoroughly recommend. They have these giant sized buns full of fresh cream with chocolate on top. Oh yes. We'll say goodbye to the railway station. Sorry if the sun is directly in the screen. It's been so many changes. This road has actually been built that actually goes right across the old railway track. So I'm just going to slowly pan round. We can now rejoin the old railway line through here, and there's still a little bit of the old platform alongside. In fact, quite a bit of it actually, which is lovely. Good spot to have a sit down, I think. Just about to cross a little bridge over a river, and this is the Avon Water. It's actually the smallest of the three main rivers that drain off the south of the New Forest. The other two are the Lymington River and the Bewley River, and the Avon Water source is just south of Burley and runs about 9 miles to the Solent at Keyhaven, passing by Sway. Peaceful scene on the southern side of the track. Some of the ponies still got a little bit of their woolly winter coat, the summer coat still to come through. And then on the right hand side looks quite marshy and boggy down there, and then in the far distance much more open heathland, heather and gorse. And here we come to level crossing number 11, I think it is, Goatspen crossing. And look, there's still a little bit of the old railway track embedded in the ground there. I think that's the first bit of track that we've actually seen. And there's the, well, there used to be a level crossing house here. It was demolished and replaced by something completely different. I have got an old photograph of what it used to look like from the 70s, and it still had the old crossing gates. And there's panning around. There is a car park just at the top of that hill. I can't quite remember what it's called though. Oh, we're making good progress now. Now this is the remains of Greenbury Bridge, which has seen better days. You'll see there's sand there. I know how lovely Logan loves sand. It's quite wide here on the track. I meant to say originally the track was a single track, and when it was first built, I believe it was the longest single piece of single track in the UK, but it was doubled in the 1860s. You might wonder, this is quite an open area now, very little banking from the next bit of section. There was sort of post and fencing along to keep the livestock out, but that wasn't put up until, well, a couple of years after the railway had been operational. So while there was no fencing, they actually employed special watchmen to go along the track with a flag to wave at any oncoming trains, giving warnings of any livestock on the track. Another level crossing post. This must be number 12, I think, and on that side as well. And if I just go into underneath these trees, you'll be able to make out the foundations and the remains of the cottage that would have been here. Yeah, you wouldn't notice it unless you were specifically looking. And then just a few trees. As I mentioned before, there would have been a little bit of land to grow vegetables, and possibly there would have been some fruit trees here as well. Now just, well, literally 400-500 yards away from that level crossing, there's another level crossing that was number 13, and again just some bricks remaining, the foundations. So I'm guessing somewhere around here there must be an old level crossing post. Yeah, there we go, up there, and the other one is on the other side. Oh, okay, look at that beautiful yellow of that gorse as well. And just on my right hand side, to the north of the track, my favourite place name in the whole of the New Forest. It's called Slap Bottom. Seriously. Oh dear, we have a problem. As you can see, the track has been fenced off from here, and what's happened on this section of the track is that the old drains have failed, and as a result the track bed has just reverted to a mud and bog. But we are going to be undeterred by this setback. What we'll do now is we'll try and follow the track as near as we can as possible without getting our feet wet. So this little track here goes by Burbush Hill car park, and we actually go over a bridge, and we'll keep carry on. Okay, so this is the bridge that we're crossing, and if I just look over the side there, well, you can see what I mean by a bit moist, to say the least, down there. Now we can either go on the north or the south of the track going forward, and I think it looks prettier as a plane goes over. Looks prettier on the southern side, so I think we'll take that route. I see they've got a number of these signs up from Forestry England, just reminding that there are birds nesting, which will take place really between the end of March all the way through to the end of July. So in which case we're not going to go over that heath bit, and we're going to stick right to the edge, which we were going to do anyway. There's a wire fence here, and from time to time we'll just double check that the track is still there in the gully below. Oh, just a quick check. Yeah, there we go. There's the cutting through there, track at the bottom, nice and boggy. But we've got this beautiful little walk underneath some pine trees, conifers. Absolutely enchanting, it really is. And this is our last bridge of the walk, I think. And right next to it there's a pony pound, which as regular viewers will know, there's a few of these dotted around the forest, used primarily with the roundup of ponies and the annual pony drift, but also used at other times of the year as well. So let's have a little look over the bridge side. I love the wooden slats here. I guess they must be the original. And just have a quick peep over the side. Yeah, the track's still there, and very boggy and marshy as well. Okay, let's have a quick look onto the northern side. Wind has just come back, which is actually quite pleasant because it's cooling us down a little bit, although the sun has gone in temporarily. We do have some cracking views here looking to the north. Just come through out into the open, and that's Strodgemore Bottom ahead of us. We've done a walk there in the past. If you haven't seen that video, do check it out. And just on the horizon of that hill you can see a winding track, and that's Smuggler's Road. It's a bit hazy. I'll see if I can get a photograph, but it's quite a long way away. It might come out a bit, as I say, hazy. Wow, this looks like some Iron Age hill fort ditch, doesn't it? But I think it's just the remains of an old sand pit. Certainly on the map it shows as a sand pit, and it's quite a sandy soil down here. I ought to go and ask Logan just to go down and investigate, save my knees, but he's not that interested. What do you reckon, fella? Look, there's a hole down there. Nah. Oh, he spotted it now. Any squirrels? Just double check. Well, we've come to the end of our journey. If I just turn the camera around, this little bit of wire fencing here actually marks the New Forest boundary. The actual New Forest National Park boundary is a couple of miles further on, and in that direction there, if you look on a map, there's a couple of old boundary stones in a line. There's the track. Looks almost like a river now, and on the left hand side of that wooden fencing it becomes private land for about another mile or so, and then you can pick it up again with public access, as it were, in Barrack Lane, where there's a level crossing house number 14. I'll put a map up on screen with a suggested route of a footpath to get from here over to the next bit of public access. But you know, our task was just to do the bit that was on the New Forest, so we have completed it, just about. Well folks, we've come to the end of our walk. We've completed our task to cross the New Forest, followed what remains of the disused part of the Castleman Corkscrew from Brockenhurst to the edge of the New Forest. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please give us a thumbs up and a like, and do make a comment. I know it's been quite railway orientated, but it is a lovely part of the world to come for a walk as well. If you haven't already subscribed, please do so, then that way hopefully you'll be able to join us for another walk sometime in the future. And do check out our Facebook page, Dave's Countryside Walks. Well, we're going to just hopefully wait for our lift, otherwise it's a long walk back. So until we meet again, thanks for watching and cheerio. Good boy.